Okay, welcome to Chapter 7. Chapter 7 is all about group policies. Now, this is probably the most important part of Active Directory. This is the reason why you do an Active Directory domain, is to be able to get a consistent set of policies. So there's two major focuses for group policies. One is to apply security settings, mostly security settings. They don't have to be security settings. It could be anything. Apply settings uniformly across my entire organization. And the second benefit is I can go in and delegate authority, saying these people over here are smart enough and have enough experience. I'll let them add a machine to the domain. So that kind of thing's happening. All right. So page 205. So basically it's about how to control and limit what a user does. I mean, that sounds kind of negative, but you know what I'm talking about. You can't do this, you can't do this, that kind of thing. And most of the time it's security related, but not always. I mean, a company might decide, well, every time you launch the browser, I want to go to the local, community web page where all our company announcements are. So that's not security related. That's just kind of something kind of cool. I've had people, they're kind of control freaks. Like, I want all of the desktops to be exactly the same. The wallpaper, exactly. You have to have the corporate logo on the wallpaper, that kind of things. So again, you can go crazy. So learning objectives, understanding what group policy is. Okay, cool. And then the types of group policy editors. There's really only one type of group policy editor. It's just that it appears in three different ways you can get to it. So page 206, understanding group policy. So something as simple as setting a user's browser to start at a company homepage, that's a setting, right? And you can do these settings on your own without having a domain. It's not quite as impressive, but on your own machine, you can go in and change some settings without having any domain whatsoever. But group policy object sure makes life easier. So most likely it's going to be serious stuff like blocking removable media, requiring Control-Alt-Delete, some security-related thing that is most likely what the policy is going to be about. So group policy is accomplished via a set of group policy objects, GPOs. Okay, so I create a GPO. GPO is a rule. Now, this GPO might have one rule, like turn on Control-Alt-Delete, or change the complexity requirements, or change the password age, or something. Most likely, it's going to be a group of things. It's going to be all those things. It's going to be, this is, the name of my GPO might be logon security. Okay. And I change the length of the password, I change the complexity requirements, I change the password history, I change the Control-Alt-Delete thing. So one single policy could have lots of rules in it. Okay, good. All right. So let's go ahead and do this. I'm going to do, there's several ways you can get to that, but I'm going to go from the Start menu and go down here to Group Policy Management. Ta-da! Okay, so it fires up, and here we have some built-in group policies already. So we start with the forest, and then you go to the domains, and we only have one domain, so here it is. And here's the default domain policy. So let's just look at these little guys. So the scope. Scope basically means it is currently linked to the domain. That makes sense. It's a domain security policy. Details, this is just like boilerplate about where it physically is, when it was created, and whether or not it's enabled. Settings, we're going to come back to that guy because that's where all the good stuff is. And delegation is where I could go in here and say, these guys over here in the engineering department, I'm going to allow them to have access to adding a machine or adding a user. I mean, it'd be kind of cool, for example, if your HR people were smart enough to have them allow them to add users to the domain when a new person comes on board. Wouldn't that be kind of cool? This is how you would do it. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and click on one exact guy here. So now I have the status where it currently is linked to the domain. The link, we're going to talk about what link means. You can have a policy that's currently not being used. I mean, you wrote the rules, but you didn't apply them to anything. So this tells me where they're linked. And so this one, for example, is linked at the domain policy, right? That kind of makes sense. And then the link order, and we're going to talk an awful lot about the link order, because here's what happens. Let's say you have a policy that turns a feature off, and then you have another one that turns it on, then you have another one that turns it off, and you have another one that turns it on. How the heck are you going to keep track of that? Well, you need to know the order in which these GPOs fire, because the last one is probably going to win. Not necessarily, but there are some things in here about whether or not you want to have it override. Is it overridable or not? Some policy that I want to make it, allow you to override it. Okay, so inheritance by default, whenever you create a new GPO and you add another thing onto it, it inherits all the things from it. So when we put like an organizational unit, and then a link to a GPO to it, every organizational unit after that is still going to get this same guy. Okay, making sense? And then the delegation tab, that's the cool thing where I can go in there and say, hey, you guys are smart, I can trust you guys. Now there's an alternate way of getting to the exact same thing. You could go through the Microsoft Management Console, the MMC. So I'm going to go GP, what is it? GPMC.MSC. Microsoft, the same thing, right? Just get to a different location. Hey, let's do it a third time. Let's go here. Let's go to server. Let's go to tools, and then we'll go down here to, am I blind? I don't see it. There it is, group policy management. Okay, basically 3 different ways to get to the same place. Not rocket surgery here. Not rocket surgery at all. Okay, so if you look at we need to get back to the actual honest to God details for this thing. All right, so details, settings, I'm sorry. Settings is what basically tell me what policies am I actually doing. Now here's the thing. A lot of people build GPOs so they operate only on the machine, and then a separate GPO for operating only on for users, like changing user preferences. Now there's no hard and fast rule that says you can't do both in a single GPO, but most people just don't. It just makes an awful lot of sense. For example, I'll just tell you about turning it on, turning it off, turning it on, turning it off. I mean, it's complicated enough as it is. Let's don't make it any more complicated. So most people just have a GPO that only deals with machines, and then a separate one only deals with users, okay? So in this particular case, this is the computer configuration. So I can tell that I've got something down here in security settings. So I'm going to go in here and do that. And then I'm going to look at password policies. So is this what I want? Do I want a maximum password age of 42 days? Yeah. Do I want 7 characters as a minimum length? Oh man, where have you been? This is ancient. Okay, then passwords, all those kinds of things. So let's pretend like I want to edit this guy. So I'm going to do a right click and hit edit. Now the editor is different, okay? The editor is, so the group policy management console talks about how they're linked together and how you can create them and all the rest of the stuff. But when it comes to actually editing, you actually bring up another tool. And this tool is complex because of the number of hierarchies inside these things. So for example, I know I need a computer one, not a user one. But where is it? Is it under policies or preferences? Is there going to be some kind of clue? Policies, Windows settings. So maybe I can follow along. So it's policies, Windows settings. And then after that, it is account policies. Actually, I don't see that under that. Hey, you mean this thing doesn't work? Security settings. Oh, there it is. Sorry. Security settings. And then I can go in and find the account policy guys. Account policies. All right, so here's where the thing is. This is where the password policy is for like 24. So, all right. So one of the things that's kind of weird. Let's go look at this just to see where we might want to make some changes. We're going to actually do this in real life in a hands-on. So right now I'm just kind of walking you through it. But yeah, I would change that definitely. And relax the minimum password length? No way. Store passwords? No way. And so there's a couple other things in here. One of, for example, is where do I set it so that I do a Control-Alt-Delete to be able to log in? So this is kind of complicated. And by the way, Microsoft has this really cool Excel spreadsheet if you ever wanted to go in and find out, because you know what it is you're trying to do, but dang it, you can't find out where the heck it is. So let me just show you that guy for just a second. So this is an Excel spreadsheet that Microsoft gives you. It talks about here's all the security settings and where they are in the, it's under computer, under Windows setting, under account policies, blah, 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 blah. Because these things are not at all easy to find. So I can do a search, for example. I want to find the one about Control-Alt-Delete. So maybe I'll just do a Control-F and do CTRL. And say, well, you know, okay, here you go. Policy controls whether the lock screen appears for user. If you enable this policy, users are not required to blah, 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 blah. Okay, kind of makes sense? Okay, so now we're back to here. If you were to follow along the path here, you don't have to do much hunting because you already have one. But when you're creating one from scratch, you're not going to have that ability to go down and find out everything there is, right? Okay, let me continue. So, you know, maximum password age, that seems a little weird. The password length, that seems a little weird. So we're going to, you know, hands-on, we're going to actually go in and tweak those guys. So one more time, a single GPO can have both computer settings and user settings. We don't have any in ours, which is good. Okay. Okay, processing GPOs, page 210. This is kind of sort of important because the order in which these things show up is very, very important. Okay, so here are the different places. So a local indicates that GPOs are applied at the local security policy for every user. A site means it being applied to the site. A domain means top level, everyone gets it. And then an OU is an organizational unit where I want to apply a specific policy. This could be in 4 different locations. Now, which ones of those are going to happen in what order? And if I have multiple site ones, or multiple OU versions, or multiple domain, you know, GPOs. So not only do I have to keep track of the interlocation order, I also have to keep track of this. So here's an easy way to explain it. So I have some sort of a wall I'm going to paint, and each one of these squares represents some sort of setting. So the first coat of paint is yellow, and it's the local security policy. And, you know, it doesn't have to cover everything, but, you know, it covers the things you want to cover. And then you do the site one on top of it. But see, here's where the site one overlapped one of the existing ones, plus it added some new ones. And then domain, okay, it added a bunch more and overwrote one of the green ones. And then last, of course, is the OU, where it added a bunch more and did some overlap. So the point is, the last coat of paint, in this case blue, if there's a challenge here, it's going to be the green one that happens. If it's a challenge here, it's going to be the red one that happens. If it's a challenge here, it's going to be the blue one that happens. So it's all about these conflicts and the order in which these things appear. Okay, get it? Got it? Good. So you need to know the order in which these things fire so that you can make sense of it all. Now, I will tell you, it gets so complicated. There's actually a tool called resultant set of policies. You type in this command and you tell it, pretend like I'm machine A, and it'll say, here's what I would apply. Because it is that complicated. It is a very complicated task. So the last one that applies is probably the one that's going to be the one that has the most precedence. Now, that's not always true, because I can go in there and say, I'm sorry, you may not override this guy in any other GPO below me. You know, I set it typically at the domain. I set it at the domain, and you can try all you want, but you're not going to overwrite that guy. Okay. Types of group policy editors, page 211. So I can go through the group policy editor or the local policy editor. Now, remember, I mentioned that, you know, you don't even have to have a domain to do this. You know, you can just have a normal everyday PC at home and just go in here and say, I want local security policy. Now this looks kind of sort of like the same thing we just did, kind of sort of. You know, it's got local policies, and it's got some, if you go into here, then they have audit policies and security safety. So yes, you can go in here and change things like, I'd like to change the password complexity rule, but it would only happen to this one machine, your one machine you have at home. Okay, we're coming up on the 15-minute mark. You guys know how this works.